Well, we're ready to go. This is number 2, the Broadcaster Chat. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. Mick Gillispie will join me as well. And big thanks to Ballpark Digest as we get everything going. I hope that you are staying nice and warm wherever you are. I'm doing this from Lansing, Michigan. It is currently about 9, 10, 11 degrees below. It is cold. It is chilly. Hopefully it's very nicer where Mick Gillispie is right now. Let's bring Mick into our chat as we get everything going for week number 2. Mick, how comfortable are you with the polar vortex?
Well, I mean, it's like 22 degrees here in Tennessee, so it's cold, but it's nothing like I'm sure what you're encountering right now.
I'm wearing a baseball cap right now because I was outside running errands, so I have hair.
So have you done anything with the snow up there? Any kind of tricks? I saw someone posted where they put water in a cup and they throw it and the water turns into like snow, like ice and stuff. Have you done anything like that?
No, I was reading an article in the Los Angeles Times. Apparently there's an epidemic of folks who take boiling pots of water, throw it in the air, and stole themselves.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
But the whole instinct that'll work. That's something else. Mick, episode number 2, let's get into what makes a good baseball commentator. We're going to talk about broadcasting a double play. Talking about baseball. So, with this respect, when did you first start? And I'm focusing on double play because that was the very first thing I had to actually practice before I really got into baseball broadcasting. Everything else I knew how to do. That was the first thing that I said, I need to work it. How are you with double plays?
Well, it's funny. I used to, when I played, I would commentate from third base a lot or in the bullpen, wherever I was at during the game. And really just goofing off with my teammates. So that was kind of the precursor of doing, baseball play-by-play as a pro. But I had a second baseman on one of my teams. His name's Kevin Kroon. And his uncle is Sylvester Kroon, who is was the football coach at Mississippi State for a while. His dad's a famous preacher. He's a great guy. And he always made me laugh. And he would yell, which I didn't know at the time, but he would yell on any ground ball to me when there was a guy on base, roll him up. Now, I didn't know that Hawk Harrelson said roll him up, So that was always something that stuck in my mind. And, and I would do it. I'd yell, as soon as I caught the ground ball, I'd say, roll him up, as I threw the ball to him, the second, and he'd turn it back to first. So I started doing games. And a lot of the stuff that I talk about on the air are things that, that are stuff that I would have done as a player, like yell, roll them up. So I'm like, hey, roll them up. That was one of those things, but there's to call a good double play, there is a smoothness that you really have to have, it's like, there's a timing. It's almost like turning a double play. It's the same thing. Like you field the ball, you got to wait for your second baseman or shortstop to get to the bag. You want to give them kind of a throw that like puts them out in front of the bag where they can throw, and it's the same thing. Ground ball to third, on the second for 1, back to first 2, a double play. The funny thing is, I turned a triple play as a player as a kid. And I really hadn't seen any, and we were broadcasting a game, and we had a triple play. Well, I totally botched that up because I was just like, touches the bag, throw to second, back to first for 2. Oh, wait, for 3, So that was like right in the beginning of my career. And then I remember like, hey, look, if I get this chance again, I'm not going to botch it. And so, that was a whole different thing.
It's funny that you say that. And I wonder why there's this echo coming along. You hear that echo as well, Mick?
I don't know. Let me put my Bluetooth on, see if that makes a difference.
Okay, sounds good. as we get everything started in our Ballpark Digest broadcaster chat.
Man, this is what live broadcasting is. It just makes a difference here. I'll know for next time.
And we'll see. Any echo now? There's still that echo.
I'm going to fix this. There we go. It's coming out. It's with this deal here with the iPhone.
So how about now?
Echo's gone.
There you go. Bluetooth. We'll know for next time. Pro tip.
Right. So about triple play and about double play, I was getting distracted hearing myself twice. It's funny that you say that with the triple play. I grew up listening to John Miller, right? To second one, on to first two, a double play. And that's what I internalized. All right, that's how we call a double play. You give 1, 2, and so there was a pop-up, a batter with runners at first and second, nobody out. I did the same thing as you. He popped up a bunt, the catcher caught it. Catcher throws down to second, 1, throws to first, 2, a triple play.
Yeah, right. You almost have to go through that one time and, to kind of make that mistake. But then I started doing this other thing where I was like, I'm like you. I grew up listening to John Miller, and I kind of internalized that. And then you start to develop your own stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the things that we talked about on the field when I played, try to incorporate them. Like I can still hear Kevin yelling at me, roll them up. But then I was like, I'm going to figure out how many different ways I can call a double play, a twin killing, tailor-made double play, like ham and egger. I mean, like you can just sit there and like go back and forth on, I don't know. I think I had like 12 or 13 different like sayings for double plays, and then I would try to mix those in.
2 for the price of 1.
Yeah, 2 for the price of 1. That was a good one. Yeah.
And I mean, if you know baseball, you almost have to say, or you try to avoid saying, a pitcher's best friend.
I say it, especially if a guy's in a big jam, like a bases loaded, 1 out or no outs, and then he gets a big double play. There's just certain cliches, I guess, that I like and I use, and that's one on occasion. But I try not to stick to too many. Like I don't want people to listen and be like, oh, this is the guy that says this, I try to avoid that and kind of have a vocabulary that mixes things up.
What tripped me up initially was, I don't know about you, I would take too long trying to describe every bit of it, and double plays are over like that. The ground ball's vacuumed up by the shortstop, and all right, I've got the shortstop fielding, and now he's flipping to second. Who's my second baseman? I'm looking down, and it's over. If it's 6-4-3, it's 4-6-3, and it's turned that nice, crisp double play. What can you do with it? It's done before you can even get it out. And I had to teach myself it's okay to lag behind the double play. I'll catch up with it. Ground ball to Johnson, flips to Miller at second, 1, turn to first, double play, or however it is, to make it as easy as possible. And then after the fact, I'll catch up and I'll talk about the pivot.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's the way you do it, and sometimes if it's a big moment or something crazy happens, you might add, an adjective, or a verb or something. I mean, just depending on what the situation is. But you're right. I mean, when guys are starting out in this, I try to tell them, and I mean, this is just how I learned, but let's get the basics right, and we'll build off of that. I've described doing play-by-play as different styles. Like I'd say John Miller is like a deep thrower, because he's able to throw so many so much description into each play, and then there's guys that sound like just straight TV, and it's 1 or 2 things here, in the basics. But to be great on radio, you really have to be the guy that gives a lot of the descriptive language. I mean, that's why people are listening, right? Because they can't see, right? But when you're starting out, it's smart to do it that way, because you get the fundamentals down and then build off of that, and a double play. I mean, it's the kind of the same way. Let me ask you about your book. I see it in the background. Just like in your book, you got a lot of different adjectives and words and descriptive words and what meanings of words. How did you go about finding all of those? And like, where do you start on something like that?
So it begins with my own vocabulary. I write down everything that I can think of in order to call it. And let's take, for example, a base runner running for second base, trying to steal second base. So I write down everything that I can think of to describe that. And then from there, I go around to all my broadcasters in the league and I say, what do you have? I'll check in with broadcast friends in other leagues. And then I'll sit down with all of the players and the coaches and I'll say, how have you described this? The coaches have different generations of jargon. But when I was first putting it together, one of the first people I emailed, I contacted was Paul Dixon of the Dixon Baseball Dictionary,
Yeah.
just to say, you were the man in charge of language and you were the man who's cataloged how baseball has talked about everything going on in the sport. And so let's discuss. And he connected me with Skip McAfee, who had worked together with him in compiling everything, and they sent me their archives. So
Wow.
from the players of today and the broadcasters of today, and I'm listening back to Vin Scully broadcasts and Russ Hodges broadcasts. So I'm getting all the broadcast lingo from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Here now is the compilation of all the jargon from before that. Because that's really what I wanted to go into and chronicle was language is ever changing. Here's everything that we've first used to talk about it, and here's everything every step along the way. I loved sitting back with the players now, and you and I both, we have the privilege to be able to, whether it's watch infield or whether it's watch BP, and all we have to do is listen to them watch it and how they talk it, or sit
Yeah.
next to a player or a coach watching a baseball game. And so it's everything. It's all of the above, putting all of that together.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have one of those guys in your league this year. South Bend's manager, Buddy Bailey. He's won all these games in the minor leagues, and he's a person that you could look to just talk about baseball with. He loves talking about it. For a guy that's been in baseball forever, it's amazing how much he really enjoys it. But yeah, I was just curious about that because when I was flipping through your book, the first time I was like, I really like this, and I wonder how you even start doing this. I mean, I guess you just, like you said, like it's got to begin somewhere. But there's a lot of young guys that get into the league, and it's like the first thing that they pick up is your book, and then that's kind of how they get everything started.
He's Mick Gillispie. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. We are talking about baseball. Big thanks to Ballpark Digest and Kevin Reichard. If you go to ballparkdigest.com right now, you'll see the Southern League All-Star Game logo. You'll see about the International League Hall of Fame class, the Fresno Grizzlies new branding, and more. Check out ballparkdigest.com. So we'll keep on talking about the mechanics of calling plays and everything that we've seen. I want to also get into color analysis today. Before we get there, though, because of how cold it is outside, Nick, I was wondering, what is the coldest that you have ever been when broadcasting a game?
That's a good question. I want to say maybe one of my first years in Tennessee, we opened the season at home, and it was so cold, and I always broadcast with the window open. I don't know why. I just do. I mean, I think because you just kind of want to have that feel. My old broadcast partner, Larry Ward, said, if the guy's got to play in it, we need to broadcast in it. The problem is you do some of these games by yourself, and then, you're out there talking for 4 hours in the freezing cold. You can get a cold and, and be out of action for a while. So you got to be careful. But I remember one where I had, two jackets on, long johns and all that stuff, and I still couldn't stay warm, and I remember thinking, like, I hope this game gets over. And it was like a 2 hour and 30-minute game, maybe less, but it felt like 4 hours. Some football games have been pretty cold too.
I've called those football games in blizzards where you couldn't see the yard line. There was a punt, and the punt returner, for whatever reason, was too far back. And so the ball just died and it went into a snowdrift and nobody could find it.
No way. Was it in fair
You have
territory or
no idea. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And when there was one time where a team rushed for what it thought was a first down, and the referee spotted it, and the yard the yard marker, they changed it to read third down, and the head coach is on the sideline pointing to where it is. It's 5 yards back. They had picked up
Hey,
a first down by 5 yards, and the referees just couldn't see it through the snow.
wow, that's crazy. Was that in Maryland or Michigan?
Now, that was in Michigan. The coldest I've been while broadcasting game was up in New York. The coldest I was in baseball because I'm thinking baseball, we don't have to worry about this like football.
Hmm.
I agree with you. Window open, especially because I hate talking into the glass in front of me. It makes me
Right.
sound like I'm broadcasting inside a room. I'm not there with the players. Um, I'll put on gloves if I get too cold, and then it becomes really cumbersome to try to score on my scorecard with my big bulky gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with technology the way that it is now, though, scoring the game, you could just watch it off the tracker. That
It's
would help you
true.
because you're right. I remember that same day, my hands were so cold, I couldn't really, hardly write on the scorecard.
We had a game, and it was in May, if I remember it right. Lansing, Michigan hosting the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. There were runners at second and third for Lansing, and it started to hail sideways. Fly
Ooh.
ball hit to the right fielder, and somehow he made the catch. This was fifth inning, sixth inning, and both runners tagged up and scored. That was the first two-run sacrifice fly I'd ever seen because the right fielder was taking his time in that hail, make the catch, cradle it, and then gingerly get it in.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time baseball starts, it'll be warm. I was looking at the temperature in Arizona, which was 70, and thinking, I'm like 24 days away, actually like 20 days away from getting there. And it can't get here fast enough. I mean, I've got stuff to do to get there that I need to complete, but I mean, I wish that it was tomorrow because this cold weather is it's a killer. And I mean, I'm sure
How's your,
you guys are going with, up north where it's really cold. And I mean, I feel for you.
how's your supply of sunscreen?
Yeah. I mean, I've got everything I need.
Up north, we make sure that our groundskeeper is good. You need really, really good groundskeepers to make sure
Hmm.
that that field is good and playable when the players come in. And for the Blue Jays, as a Lansing Lugnut, they're all flying in from Florida. We have a lot of the players catch cold when they arrive. Guys get sick because of that drastic change in climate.
Yeah. And I got a great example of that. I spent the entire like month of spring training in Arizona. Never left one time. Not last year, but the year before that. And at the end of spring training, I flew with the Cubs to Houston, and it was for a like two like those exhibition games right at the end of spring training. And I remember my skin that year, it was extra dry. I was getting like nosebleeds, and my skin was just like, like flaking off and stuff. And when I got off of that plane in Houston, it was almost like somebody just dumped water on me. Like I could feel my skin like kind of come back to life and stuff. And I was like, God, I miss the South. Like 10 minutes, it was like I was back to normal again. But when I could feel I mean, literally, I could feel my skin like just soaking up the humidity and the moisture when we landed.
What the brass tell the players when they come up to Lansing and they immediately say, "Oh, this is not baseball weather." They say to them, if you want to play postseason baseball in September and October, and then maybe into November, you got to play in Cleveland, you have to play in New York, you have to play in Boston, and onward. And there's not going to be a respite. You have to play in Chicago. It's going to be cold at the very end of the year, so you might as well
Right.
learn now.
Yeah, and that is so true. The beginning of the season and the end of the season, the weather's really similar. If you get into the playoffs, you're around for a while. You're dealing with playing in cold weather. And when you play in cold weather, I think you've got to execute. You want to field the ball, and don't elongate the innings. And I think you got to be able to move runners and hit with two outs. Just basic stuff that you would say, well, you need to do this in all the games. So the ball just doesn't carry it when it's cold out like it does in the middle of summer. But teams that can do that and are able to to take advantage of the opportunities that they have with men in scoring position, and get good pitching, I mean, but I think it's advantage to the pitcher when it's cold out. I've always thought that. Even when I played, you go out there and, like if you hit the ball off the end of the bat, the vibration, like it stings your hands. And I don't care how many games you play, like that. If you don't hit it right and it's really cold out, it's going to be tough to get back in there and swing again.
I asked a pitcher because I was wondering how that cold weather affected him. And he said, no, I couldn't feel the seams and I couldn't throw any of my breaking stuff. So I followed up with, okay, so cold weather would therefore favor the hitter. And he'd say, no, because all I've got to do is throw it inside and no hitter wants to be jammed in the cold.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the secret, whether you're hitting it off the end of the bat or right off the handle, it hurts. And it's amazing when I watch teams that are good, cold weather teams, and I think it's a mental thing. You've got to be, like you said, you've got to start preparing yourself as a minor leaguer. Hey, look, you know what? I'm going to have to play in this and we're going to make the best out of it. The thing about the heat is it in the South anyway during the summer. I mean, the kids have to be careful because it gets so hot. You see like in other sports people, that are dying way too young because they're just not, their body just can't handle the heat. So I look at that a little different than hey, you get into the playoffs and I mean it's go time. Like being cold is I've never heard of someone dying from playing in the cold. I don't know if I'm sure it happened, but in a major league game or a minor league game. But the heat will get you down here. You got to stay up with the fluids and everything. But if you're going to win a World Series, I mean, look, you're going to have to play in the cold. I went to Game 3 of the World Series in 2016, and it was cold at Wrigley Field. 1 run was scored. That was it. Or I think it was a 1-0 final. And then, the next 2 days was that same thing. It was cold every night, so you got to go out there and then swing back to Cleveland. Last year was in Boston. The Red Sox were great last year. I mean, I was watching them hit the ball in the cold, and I was like, geez, these guys are, they're locked in on, doing what they had done all year, and that's basically dominate.
When the NFL put its Super Bowl in Atlanta, it's probably thinking, all right, warmer weather Super Bowl, the ice storm of 2000 notwithstanding. They're going to have rain this Sunday. A lot of the conversation surrounds Tony Romo. How's this for a segue? Let's talk about what makes a good color commentator. What a lot of folks, and I'm going to speak for myself, what is impressive about Tony Romo has been that he is calling out exactly what play is happening the majority of the time. The Wall Street Journal did a study and said 68% of the time when Romo predicts what play is going to happen, that's the play that occurs. And this is now seen as, hey, this is him being a color commentator. Why can't other football color commentators try to emulate this? And let me bring this to baseball. Is there something that a baseball broadcaster can do before a play happens that would make you feel similarly prepared and, as a viewer, even more enjoy that color analysis?
Yeah, it's a tough job. And when you're on television, I worked in college on a study where a research project when I was in grad school where I watched old games and basically like logged how much time the play-by-play guy talked, how much time the color guy talked, how much there was they wanted to know how much of what they were saying was controversial. I mean, it was like a whole study of this, and it's a tough job to go in there and be successful. Gary Danielson is the color guy on the SEC games on CBS, and I've never seen a more unpopular color guy. Like people just don't like it. Like and I don't know, whether he does a good job or not. I mean, I'm not going to judge that. He's obviously got the gig, and that means he's good, right? But I mean, I talk to fans, whether they're at Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, wherever, they just don't like it. And he's right a lot. I mean, honestly, like he gets it right. Like but there's just something about him that people don't like. That's my opinion, just from the what I see on Twitter and what fan interaction I have. I think there's a lot of SEC fans that'll be like, that's the way it is. Tony Romo's like the exact opposite. Like 1 year or 2 years in now, he was going to be like he could have played more quarterback. and it's an easier job to do color, right? I mean, if you're him, I mean, because you're not getting your head beaten in. It's not like Dallas has an offensive line like New England where you barely get tackled, And so he takes the job, and it's just a natural. I mean, and I'm sure he's worked really hard behind the scenes because he's a good listener, and he does it in a way where you don't feel like he's against your team. It's more like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why I think, and I think that's what Gary Daniels gets. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's anything that he can change. I think it's just his personality. Like he just has high negatives. Tony has really high positives to me. And people love him. And I've had people call me up and say, hey, I really like Tony. And then you compare him to Jason Witten, they get the, same thing. I mean, they just got out of the NFL, and it just hasn't clicked yet. But Tony has an instinct of the game, like he knows the game. You would figure he could probably coach the game just on his ability to like assess what play is going on and then figure out what they're probably going to do and then predict it.
Would it work for baseball to have a color commentator actively saying, here's what the pitch is going to be? Or let me get inside the batter's mindset. Here's what I'm guessing the pitch is, and here's what I want to do with it right now before that pitch is thrown.
I think some guys do. I'm thinking like, who are my favorite color commentators? I love Jim Palmer, because he's a Hall of Famer, and he's just got so many great stories, and he's to that point in his life where he can be opinionated, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. I like opinions. I like people that tell it like they see it. I enjoy that. I don't like people that toe the line. And sometimes, the guys that aren't popular, I like Joe Morgan a lot. And Joe Morgan, I think, was like Gary Danielson, where like people just didn't like him. And I heard, you hear that. And I loved him. I thought he was great. I mean, I enjoyed watching him, and I missed the John Miller and Joe Morgan Sunday night broadcast, to be honest with you. I thought it was great, but I'm a baseball guy, so I don't know when they look at the TV, people look at, the numbers that they're trying to figure out, like, how are they going to appeal to everyone? But for me, that was a great team. I like listening to Bob Brenly, BB, when he was with the Cubs, now when he's with Arizona. He's funny, he's honest. But he's got a sense of what's going on, and then I'll say this, like, as far as people I've worked with, I've done some games with Ron Coomer, and I've done baseball with, color guys, got former players, and sometimes you leave and they talk so much, you don't have a chance to really like kind of collect your thought. They're talking over plays, they don't have a sense of timing. You say something and they don't really know where you're trying to take it, and your job as the play-by-play guys, you're just trying to make it easy on them, but there's just, for whatever reason, it doesn't work, or it's just not easy, maybe but you do a game with Ron Coomer, and I mean, like, I walk out of there and it's like I just got there. Like, he makes it so easy on me. I love working with him. I mean, like, it could be a 4-hour game. He's able to tell you what every pitch is. He can kind of assess the players, what they're doing, what their swings mean, how the guy that's pitching, what he's doing. I mean, you're basically just like, hey, here comes the 1-1, throw a couple details in there, and it's a smooth ride. So just kind of having the experience of teaming up with him from time to time, I can imagine that when Tony's doing the game, it's probably the same thing. It makes it really easy on you and comfortable, because he's able to see the game in a way that even someone that's watched as many games as we have can't, and then express it.
You've partly answered this, but let's get this down. Let's say you're the TV voice. what is it specifically that you want from your color analyst?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want someone that is ready to work. I can't stand it when they show up, some of the guys that you'll get teamed with, and they're just not prepared. They think that because they played that they're just going to show up and kind of know what's going on, and that they'll just kind of pick it up as you go. So I don't think you can do that. I think you need to read. I think you need to talk to the coaches, the managers, whether you're doing college or pro or Major League Baseball. And there's an art to this. Whether you're Jim Palmer, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, or somebody that played maybe a year of professional baseball and they do it as a color guy. There's a work that comes with it. And I just feel like, first off, if I have someone that is dedicated to the craft, that earns me respect, I think Coomer's that way. I mean, like I've watched him improve every single year he's been with the Cubs, and I thought he was good when he started, but even better now. And then you'll sit there and talk broadcasting with him, and you can tell he thinks about it a lot. He puts a lot of time and effort into, how he can improve. He wants to know, hey, what do you think about this? Or, how can I make it easier on you? The other thing is honesty. You want to be able to say, hey, I want you to do this, this, and this. And you want them to say, hey, I really like when you do this, this, and this. Like, for example, if you're doing a game on television, you want them, the color person, to talk a lot. I mean, like break the play down and talk. But I don't like them talking over pitches. I want to be able to, if the pitch is coming, if the ball's put in play, I don't want you to be in the middle of a sentence and the guy hits a 2-run homer and I'm behind the play. And when you watch Len and JD do a game, their timing is perfect. I mean, it's like a synchronized dance with those guys. And I think they're amongst the best in baseball. I mean, honestly, I watch them all the time. And JD is really smart. And he is funny, I think that's the sense of humor is good too. But him and Len, like you can tell they're friends, and he just knows when to step out of the way. And then I'll see those guys talking before the game, and and they have a game plan when they go in, kind of, like, hey, here's what's going on. What do you want to get into? Boom, boom. But it's not like. It's not like, hey, here's the script of everything. It's, here, what are you thinking? Boom, boom. And then they're just able to work off of each other to the point where they're around the team every day. They know what's going on, and then they have that timing down. And working together kind of gets you there too. But I want someone that is prepared. I want someone that's honest. That can say, hey, you know what? I didn't like when this happened, or I wish we could do it this way. And I think if you get those two things down, and then someone that might not take themselves too seriously. I want to have a good time. And I think that if I'm having fun and they're having fun, that the person watching the game is having fun. It's like I saw where the Tigers broadcasters got into a fight in the booth over a chair. And it's like, you know what, man, you guys have the best job in the world. And I'm sure they feel horrible about it now because it's really tough in this business to get a second chance. It's tough to get a first chance. If you don't have the right dad, and that's maybe been a Hall of Famer and been in the game forever. I mean, to be honest with you, and you're not getting what I like to refer to as the fast pass, you better be a phenom, or you better be extremely lucky, or you maybe better have been a great player and have impressed the right front office person, but if I can't imagine going and doing this job and not having a good time. I've done thousands of games, and there's been years where I've had assistants that maybe I didn't mesh with as well as other years. A couple of years ago, my assistant, and then the minor leagues, we don't really have like the same guy every year. It's kind of a revolving thing, but. This guy Charlie Walter, who it just made me laugh every single day, and people could tell. I mean, maybe it wasn't always the most professional stuff, but you don't have people come up to you and say, you know what, you made me laugh too much last night. It's like, hey, you guys got me cracking up with this, and I enjoyed it. So there's a balance. You want to be, you want to be serious in the right times, but you also want to have a good time, and not take yourself too. So that would not take yourself too seriously, and just love coming to work every day. But I think if you're able to be honest and you're able to have a good time, I think that and you know what you're talking about and you're dedicated, I think the rest of it will kind of mesh together.
I want to go back to one of the first points that you said, which was when the broadcasters are talking over the pitches. That's one of my pet peeves, is when a broadcaster doesn't expect something to happen on a pitch. And so you can just hear them get caught entirely off guard. If you watch a video that's making the rounds again, Miguel Cabrera is at bat in the World Series against Roger Clemens.
Yes.
It seems to me that Joe Buck is surprised by the fly ball hit to right. He doesn't realize it's going to be a home run until the ball leaves. And so it seems to me that broadcaster, you have to be ready. You can still tell stories. You can still tell jokes. You can still enjoy yourself, but you should never be distracted by whatever else is on your mind from what's actually going on in the action of play. A football broadcaster should never be like, oh, look at that, they're scoring a touchdown right now.
Yeah, well, it takes work. And honestly, I think Joe's gotten a lot better since then. And I mean, his dad was a famous broadcaster and didn't have to grind it out in the minor leagues. You're 21 years old doing a big league game. You're going to learn in the big leagues. You're going to make your mistake. You're going to mess up your triple plays in front of a lot more people than we are, right? And I thought his dad was one of the best I ever heard. But yeah, I mean, I know exactly. I saw it on Facebook yesterday, and I'm watching that, and it's when you're doing these games, you really have to work hard. And when you have a partner, it's like I said before about Ron, about Len and JD, it is an absolute dance. And they're so good at it. Like, Len's never really surprised because he's always like, they just know, like, hey, here comes the pitch. I'm going to pause. And then you hear the crack of the bat, and then it either picks up again or you call the play. So I don't, I don't know, like, maybe there was something said. Maybe he kind of got out, he got a little ahead of himself. It's happened to me. It happens a lot. I mean, you call like 300 pitches. Sometimes you're in the middle of a story and you're trying to jam it in. You want to get everything in, and then all of a sudden it's like, and you're still talking. So you have to work at it. The one of the best young broadcasters that I can remember coming through the Southern League was Joe Davis, and it was because Joe always was focused on doing those things right. He just had such a mentality of, I'm going to learn the right way to do it, and I'm going to do it the right way. And timing was a big part of it. If you send him your tape, no one's ever given me a better critique than him. And he's still a young guy, and he's a major, player in our business, and it's because that he just does have this ability to take care of the fundamentals and not be surprised by anything. And it's because he learned it in the minors, and he's got an amazing skill set, but he also is just able to no matter what, stick to the fundamentals, and those are a great example of it. And man, you know what? Maybe one day he's the next guy. He may be the next guy calling the World Series, and I can promise you that he's not going to be surprised by a home run. It's just because his fundamentals won't let him.
Here's where a surprise, I think, helps. When broadcast partners can surprise each other. When you found a story that your partner doesn't know, when you've got an insight that they never saw coming, a comparison that they never thought of, but it hits them like a thunderbolt. I love those moments for the broadcast partner, for that team working together.
Yeah. Talking about, like, Len Casper and I worked together in spring training, and he's so good at the fun part of the game. You'll be on the air, and then someone's name, will be like, I don't know, Bamberger or something, and then he'll want to figure out all the names that have to do with food, and then and then you're in the middle of doing the game, and then he'll hit you with one, and like, oh, Chili Davis, like it just keeps going, and it's like it makes you laugh and it's funny, and yeah, or if someone says something to you and you have an epiphany, um, that that's good too. I going back to Tony Romo, um, it's when he quit playing football to do this, I thought, you know what? What if it doesn't work out? I'd say he's the most popular color commentator in America right now. I mean, because people keep talking about how much they like watching him.
Do you remember the reaction that Chris Archer got when he joined? Okay, so Chris Archer's team isn't in the playoffs. He's not there. And so he just joins for color commentary. And even though he wasn't polished in figuring out what he wanted to say, he understood the game because he's in it. He knows all these guys. He knows how to pitch to each of these batters. He knows what makes the pitchers good. That recency of playing the game, that really does allow that conduit to explain exactly why is this guy good? Why is this guy respected? What is he thinking about right now?
Yeah, I know Arch. I love him, and I remember saying that he could do that as a career. But he's got the looks. He's got the personality. He's got the charisma. He's got great grammar. So I mean, you got to put all those things together. He's able to articulate his opinion, and a lot of guys can't. I mean, I've had managers that you can't talk to because it's hard for them to articulate why something happened, or if you ask a question, it's hard for them to answer that question in a way that they feel comfortable with. I was not surprised at all that Arch went out there and was fantastic. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was hoping that the Cubs got him last year at the trade deadline. I just love the guy so much.
They used to have him.
Yeah, we used to have him. Still a trade that I just didn't care for a whole lot. And I mean, I understand why you make trades, but boy, that was a tough deal right there, and but that's part of the game, and you see Chris Archer and what he's able to do, and think like, hey, if you would have had him with the young players that the Cubs have now, he would have fit in perfect in the clubhouse. He would have been one of the aces of the staff. Maybe it'd been a little bit easier to get, to the World Series again with someone like him. Now I got to play against him.
I'd add this too with Tony Romo. It's about him telling you what play is going to happen. I think a lot of people really like, and this has caused criticism toward, I'm going to throw out John Smoltz, for example, the enthusiasm that he still has for the game. There's been criticism levied against broadcasters in baseball recently that they are not enjoying today's baseball. And you could never accuse Tony Romo of he doesn't enjoy today's football.
Yeah, Smoltz is one of those guys I love. I think he's great. But I mean, that's also coming from someone that watched him pitch and is a baseball nut. I kind of feel like I agree with most of what Smoltzy says. I love him, but you know what? Like that's what makes watching this great is it's a game, and we can all have a different opinion. It's tough to get everyone to like you. It is. It's tough to be in
everybody likes somebody. I'd get suspicious.
Well, and if you're like a national guy, it's even more difficult because I can remember reading the books from guys that did national games and they Jack Buck was a great example, and people complain that you hate their team, no matter, and you get complaints from both teams in a game that you did that you were against their team, so it's hard. Like Joe Morgan. I mean, like I thought Joe Morgan was honest. I thought he had great stories. I was so surprised when people didn't like him so much, and I debate that. Well, you know what? look, his job is to get on there and give you an opinion based on his experience and fact, and the numbers. And when you do that, if someone might not like it, it's weird. Like, just from our aspect, it's like if you post something on Facebook, say that you're followed by the players, and there's a story in the Athletic that so and so might be traded, and you retweet that because you think it's interesting, or for whatever reason, or anything like that, and then they see it, then they're mad at you, like like you wrote it. Well, I guess you want me to be traded. You never know what's going to kind of upset someone that you say. So it really does take a lot of confidence to go and tell the truth. But for me personally, I don't want to see someone go up there and just BS just because they want to be able to walk into the clubhouse and everyone to love them. And if I can remember, it was one of the World Series game I went to, game 3, Jorge Soler hit a triple in the 8th or 9th inning, and he didn't run out of the box, and he still got a triple. And I just remember thinking, like, how would I have described that? How do you say, hey, like, how much? Because this is the World Series. Like, what? I know you thought it was going to be foul, but you still got to run, like, and as fast as he was, and he still got, and he might not have gotten any more than a triple, who knows? But, how critical are you? How honest are you? And if you're the color guy, I mean, that's kind of more up your alley than us. I mean, we kind of get to hide by the facts, and just like, hey, here, then the descriptions if we want to, let them do it. So Tony's been able to just kind of walk this line where people like him, and he hasn't really been, controversial. He knows he's got a real good feel of the game, and that in this world, when you have, you're trying to impress people from all across this country on national television, is tough.
Remember let's just say the encounter between David Price and Dennis Eckersley on the airplane?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in either one of their spots, but definitely not Dennis Eckersley's spot.
It seems to me that part of my job is I have to have working relationships with everybody that I work with. And so that's
Right.
on one side of the office, but that is also with the players, with the coaches. That there is a certain kind of sports talker who, the more polarizing they are and the more opinions and emotions they stir, the better. And I also think that as a play-by-play person, I think Vin Scully or Jack Buck personified that well, that if people don't like you, it's not because your personality is necessarily polarizing. It's that however you're doing it, the same way that I might not like this music, it's just not my taste. That this broadcaster is not my taste. But I don't think a play-by-play person should necessarily be, all right, come down on one side or the other, choose your side.
Yeah, well, you want to have, I think you want to have your broadcast be enjoyed by whoever listens to it. If it's, if it's a mom that's dropping their kids off at, soccer or baseball practice, a grandmother that is, sitting by the radio and in bed somewhere sick, a baseball scout, a high school baseball player, someone that's just got the radio turned on. And so you got to be entertaining. I mean, I say that all the time, and I also feel like my style is, it's like we're just sitting at the bar and we're watching the game, and, we're going to talk about the game and we're going to enjoy the game, and it's going to be fun. And if you can project that energy and that excitement for the game, I think people like that too. It's hard for me because I really haven't been in a huge market yet. to know what that is like, because everywhere I've gone, it's been, it's turned out really good, So I mean, like but I'm curious. I hope I get that chance sometime soon, because I'd love to know. But I think people can sense if you're genuine, and I think that if you are, that they, that they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And I think the fans are really smart. I know Cubs fans are. They just get it. And the more over the years that I've been willing to be myself, the better they've been to me. Instead of going in and really like trying to be someone I'm not, maybe be a little bit more conservative and buttoned up. I like to have a good time. I like to laugh. I make a mistake here and there, just like anyone else. But I don't sit around and cry about it. We move on to the next thing. And, I enjoy seeing the people when you leave, talking about the game. And it's a blessing to be able to do it, just, that. So, but I would love to know. I mean, I'm sure just like you, it'd be great to go in New York or Chicago or Baltimore or so wherever and kind of see how people respond to your style and how you would deal with the negative criticism. And we talked about this last week. It's really easy now to tell someone you don't like them. There's a lot of ways to do it. Yeah, a lot of ways to do it.
I want to go back just to focus on a couple of the things that you said. You just said entertaining and how important that is. But before that, the whole idea of not taking yourself seriously. If you're honest, if you let people know, here's what I see, because they're seeing the same things too. But at the same time that you can laugh at yourself and have a good time. That's combining all those different things. I know the game. I'm understanding the game. I'm enjoying the game just as much as you. If I see something that you don't like, I don't like it either. It's that reflection. But man, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's it. I mean, like, and that's any business, anywhere you go. Most people like that guy that doesn't think that he walks on water. In our business too, like, you'll meet people that have made it in the business, and they think that means that they've made it in life. Like, hey, you got a good job, but doesn't mean that you're any better than anyone else. Staying grounded, and this is a career that most of us have dreamed about doing our entire lives, and it's unfair, it's like anything else. You put a lot of work in, and then you turn around and some guy's kid that just graduated college, dad gets him a job in the big leagues, and you're going, okay, this is not, and it's the way, but it's like that in any field, like nepotism is a big part of the broadcast business, unfortunately, but it's a big part of any business, so you got to deal with that stuff, and then, but go to work every day and try to be the best that you can be and be entertaining and fun. And then, like I said, have time to appreciate the fact that the only reason we're doing this is that there are a group of people that show up and watch these games and listen to these games and buy merchandise with the logos on it. The fans, without them, we wouldn't have this opportunity. And there's times where I'll say to young players, like, hey, man, like they don't want to sign an autograph or they don't want to. It's like, look, I've been around this a long time. The reason we're here is that dude and his kid over there, or that lady over there, and then, or that family of 6 that's here tonight. We just you can never not appreciate that, and the work that went into whoever's out there spending their money for us to be able to be part of the game, showing up, that earns a big amount of respect with me.
Question from the chat. How important is it for a play-by-play broadcaster to interact with their color commentator on the air?
Yeah, very important. I did a couple of seasons of Alabama baseball on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and I worked with Chris Stewart. And this was not too long after, let's say I had been in broadcasting a little while, but not much, and I never worked with a partner. And Tom Hart was who's a tremendous play-by-play guy, and he does the SEC network, and he was the voice of the Smokies before I got here. But Tom Hart was there, and he came in and he watched a little bit of our game, and Chris was goofing around, and I was so focused on the game, I didn't really pick up a lot of what he was saying. Like I just was so like, here comes the pitch, like trying to get the fundamentals right. And Tom said, you really got to pay attention to what your color guy's doing, man. I mean, like he's leaving some stuff out there for you. You need to get it. That's a big part of doing this. As you advance, you're going to work with people. You've got to be able to, to interact and pay attention. And I took that to heart, and I've tried to be better at that. And it's gotten easier as I've gotten better at doing. I'm not thinking as much about the fundamentals of doing play-by-play. I'm paying attention to what that person's saying. And then, if it's something funny going off of that, I try to always acknowledge, just to let them know that I'm paying attention, and let the listener know, the watcher know that we're in it together. And I've worked with some guys in SEC network that are so funny and so fun to work with, and just get it, and it get
Looks like maybe we're back. Polar vortex and network connection problems, but with the wireless and how things go, getting things established, this has been episode 2. I really appreciate you checking in. Big thanks to Ballpark Goldberg-Strassler. Our weekly chat will discuss talking about baseball. Send in your thoughts, send in your questions, your topics, and we'll proceed onward from there, right here on Facebook Live and onward. Ballparkdigest.com once again. Big thanks. Take care. Until next week, stay warm.